Hello and welcome to Sleepsmyth, your peaceful place to unwind, dream, and drift gently into sleep. Before we start our story tonight, let me help you settle in with a simple, calming breath like a gentle lullaby for your body and mind. So, find a cozy spot, maybe snuggle under your blanket, and softly close your eyes. Now, breathing quietly through your nose for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath softly for 7 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now, slowly exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds, letting all the tension melt away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do that again. Nice and easy. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One last time, just like a soft whisper. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Feel your body getting lighter, your mind quiet, as if you're being tucked gently into a calm, warm bed. Thank you for sharing this moment with Sleepsmyth. Now, relax completely and let the story carry you into a peaceful, restful sleep. Let's begin.
In the quiet folds of history, where gilded light once danced upon walls and thrones, lie wonders that time has folded into shadow, treasures wrought by human hands, kissed by sunlight, and whispered into legend now dwell in memory half forgotten, yet luminous with the echo of royalty and ambition. Their brilliance endures not in sight alone, but in imagination, a legacy carried across centuries through whispers, sketches, and the soft murmur of vanished holes. Across these ages, we awaken 3 such marvels, each a testament to sovereign vision, artisan's devotion, and the fragile glory of gold, gem, and resin. They are more than relics. They are monuments to the ambition, taste, and opulence of rulers whose crowns weighed heavy with power, and whose halls were built to dazzle the eyes of nations. First, the Fabergé Eggs, jeweled wonders of the Russian court. Delicate enamel, intricate gold filigree, and secret mechanisms revealed hidden marvels. Each egg was more than ornament. It was a sovereign's whim, a palace in miniature, a symbol of wealth, artistry, and the private delights of emperors. Lost, dispersed, yet immortalized in collections and imagination, they whisper the elegance of a court forever vanished. Next, the amber room, a chamber woven from the sunlight of northern forests. Baltic resin, polished and gilded, became more than ornament. It became a living glow, a warm golden mosaic that transformed palace corridors into a sanctuary of light. Prussian craftsmen shaped the forest's memory into walls that shimmered with quiet majesty, a gift to Russian emperors, now lost to war and shadow, yet preserved in imagination, and replicas that still murmur its incandescent promise. Then the Peacock Throne, the jewel of the Mughal Empire, where gold and gemstones sang in symphony. Each peacock motif, emerald feather, and ruby glint was a sovereign signature of power, a throne designed to capture awe, command respect, and reflect an empire's boundless ambition. Seized in conquest, the throne vanished from Delhi's halls, scattering legend across continents and centuries, leaving only memory, rumor, and the glimmering echo of its majesty. These are treasures buried not in soil alone, but in the currents of time, ephemeral, radiant, and eternal in imagination. Each carries a story of kings and artisans, of ambition and devotion, of sunlight captured and glory made manifest. Now, we follow the trail of lost splendor and step into halls that no longer exist, thrones that no longer hold rulers, and golden wonders that shimmer only in the memory of the world. The Fabergé Eggs, imperial jewels of the Romanov court, a chronicle of tiny masterpieces, hidden gifts, and the shimmering legacy of the Romanovs. Sparks in the workshop. In the quiet heart of St. Petersburg, winter winds rattled the tall windows of the Fabergé workshops, yet inside, warmth lingered among polished tables strewn with gold sheets, delicate gemstones, and powdered enamel of every hue. Lanterns cast soft golden pools across workbenches, glinting against the tiny treasures in progress, revealing a world where imagination and craftsmanship intertwined. The faint tang of heated metal mixed with beeswax, the sharp sweetness of molten gold, and the subtle aroma of pigments combined to create an atmosphere of quiet reverence, as though the room itself understood the wonders being born within it. Craftsmen bent over sketches and miniature molds, tracing curves and shapes that would eventually hold secrets, delicate surprises, and beauty so refined it could astonish even the most discerning eye. Hands moved with painstaking precision, selecting gemstones that caught the softest light like captured sunlight, and carefully mixing enamel colors, ranging from frost-kissed blues to deep ruby reds and shimmering greens. Tiny chisels and hammers tapped gently on gold, while miniature saws cut through precious metals as if the room itself held secrets of the craft. Apprentices hovered nearby, their eyes wide, learning to balance patience with skill, while masters whispered guidance, correcting angles, smoothing surfaces, and adjusting compartments that would later hide the tiniest marvels. Each egg was a puzzle of artistry and engineering, a treasure that held both visible splendor and hidden enchantments, and every movement of the craftsman's hand carried the weight of centuries of tradition and devotion. The first eggs began to emerge from the workshop like whispers of imperial grandeur. Some contained tiny, lifelike portraits of Romanov family members, framed in delicate gold and miniature enamel settings so intricate they seemed alive under the flickering candlelight. Others held mechanical wonders, birds that flapped their wings, carriages that rolled across miniature floors, and tiny jewels that rotated or shimmered when a hidden mechanism was activated. Every hinge, every latch, every moving part was polished, tested, and adjusted until it worked flawlessly, transforming the egg from a mere object into an experience, a vessel of delight and wonder that captured both imagination and craftsmanship in a single gleaming shell. Days passed like quiet hours of devotion, and the eggs glimmered under the soft glow of candlelight and winter sun. Craftsmen paused occasionally to imagine the reactions of those who would eventually behold their creations. A young child's gasp of wonder, the gentle smile of a duchess, or the quiet admiration of the emperor himself. The warmth of gold, the glow of enamel, and the sparkle of gemstones merged to form objects that seemed almost alive, imbued with the essence of artistry, patience, and human ingenuity. Within these tiny masterpieces, centuries of skill converged, carrying the quiet heartbeat of St. Petersburg's workshops, and hinting at the dazzling legacy of the Romanov court that would endure for generations. Imperial inspiration. Within the grand corridors of the Winter Palace, the Fabergé workshop's creations found their true purpose, shaped by the whims and desires of the Romanov family. Emperors and empresses selected each egg with meticulous care, imagining colors, motifs, and hidden surprises that reflected their lives, celebrations, and personal stories. Each commission was infused with intimacy, an Easter gift for a loved one, a token of affection for a family member, or a symbol of grandeur meant to astonish the court. Jewelers and craftsmen listened closely, translating these visions into gold, enamel, and gemstones, blending art and engineering into treasures so small yet so profoundly exquisite that they could hold entire worlds within their polished shells. Fabergé oversaw every stage of creation, guiding artisans with precision, selecting gemstones that caught the faintest glimmers of candlelight, and approving enamel hues that shifted subtly as they caught the sun. The air of the workshop smelled of molten metal and finely crushed pigments, soft warmth from stoves mingling with the scent of polished wood and wax. Apprentices observed in hushed reverence, absorbing not only techniques but also the philosophy of transformation, how raw materials could become vessels of wonder, and how each hidden compartment, delicate hinge, and miniature painting would carry the soul of the court. Every tiny egg held layers of meaning, waiting patiently to astonish and delight those who would unlock its secrets. Some eggs contained miniature portraits of children, painted with astonishing detail, each brushstroke capturing personality and innocence. Others concealed tiny mechanical marvels, birds that stretched their wings, rotating carriages, and hidden surprises that sprang to life at the turn of a key. Each moving part required extraordinary patience to design, assemble, and perfect. Every mechanism was tested repeatedly to ensure smooth, flawless function. The combination of gemstones, gold, enamel, and motion transformed simple shells into experiences, creating objects that could mesmerize onlookers and invite them into a world of wonder, imagination, and intimacy. As the eggs neared completion, the artisans imagined their journey to the imperial family, each piece destined to leave the quiet warmth of the workshop for the opulent halls of the palace. Courtiers would pause in awe, children would peek with delight, and the emperor himself would marvel at the ingenuity, care, and artistry captured in objects so small yet so monumental in their effect. The eggs embodied the heart of St. Petersburg, a fusion of human skill, patience, and inspiration, bridging the hidden world of meticulous creation with the brilliance, celebration, and splendor of imperial life. Each egg shimmered with promise, a tiny vessel of joy, memory, and artistry that would endure far beyond the hands that shaped it. gems, gold, and hidden wonders. Within the quiet glow of Fabergé's workshop, the eggs began to reveal their true brilliance, a fusion of artistry and alchemy. Gold sheets were meticulously shaped, hammered, and polished until they reflected light with a soft, warm glow. Tiny gemstones were selected not just for color, but for the way they caught and scattered light, creating flickers and glimmers that shifted as hands or sunlight passed across them. Enamel was layered with painstaking precision, each coat fired to perfection, producing hues so deep and rich they seemed to hold their own miniature skies, forests, or oceans. Every surface, edge, and hinge was carefully considered, blending function with beauty, as if even the smallest detail could convey a story or spark delight in those who glimpsed it. Hidden surprises became the soul of each creation, secrets carefully embedded within gleaming shells. Some eggs opened to reveal tiny mechanical birds, wings stretching and flapping as if alive, their plumage painted in subtle shades of life. Others contained miniature carriages, delicate enough to roll smoothly across golden floors, or tiny portraits of Romanov children, so finely detailed that the eyes seemed to follow the beholder. Hinges, springs, and catches were engineered with precision so fine that each mechanism operated effortlessly, a gentle marvel of patience, skill, and ingenuity. The eggs were not merely objects, they were experiences, tiny stages where movement, color, and light combined to tell stories in secret, waiting for the one who held them to unlock their wonders. The workshop hummed with quiet focus, artisans moving between benches like guardians of secret worlds. Apprentices learned the rhythm of creation, the measured tapping of hammers, the smooth brushing of enamel, the subtle polishing of gemstones, each sound a soft note in the symphony of craft. Masters supervised, adjusting, aligning, and approving, ensuring that even the tiniest imperfection was corrected before a work left the table. Every egg carried the imprint of countless hours of care, from initial sketch to finished jewel, a testament to human patience, skill, and imagination. As the eggs neared completion, their brilliance hinted at the marvels to come in the Romanov court. Courtiers would later marvel at hidden scenes, delicate mechanisms, and the shimmer of gold and gemstones under candlelight. Each egg told a story, blending the visible with the concealed, the tangible with the imagined, and the meticulous craftsmanship of the workshop with the grandeur of imperial life. Even in miniature, these treasures held weight, presence, and wonder, carrying within them the magic of creation, the legacy of St. Petersburg artisans, and the quiet enchantment of tiny worlds waiting to astonish those who opened them. The Romanov collection. Once completed, the Fabergé eggs were carried from the glowing workshops into the grand halls of the Winter Palace, where they became more than treasures. They became symbols of a dynasty. Placed carefully on velvet cushions, surrounded by flickering candlelight and the subtle gleam of gilded furniture, each egg radiated quiet majesty. Courtiers paused, awed by the delicate balance of gold, enamel, and gemstones, while children of the imperial family peered curiously, drawn to the tiny secrets hidden within polished shells. The eggs were at once gifts and marvels, intimate tokens of celebration and public displays of ingenuity, each one a tiny masterpiece that spoke of love, devotion, and the grandeur of a fading imperial world. The collection grew, with each new Easter or special occasion adding another jewel to the display. Some eggs commemorated birthdays or anniversaries, while others marked important events, each imbued with symbolism and crafted with meticulous care. Portraits of children, miniature palaces, mechanical animals, and intricate floral designs populated the interiors, each surprise revealed with a gentle twist or turn of a key. Visitors were captivated not only by the outward beauty but by the ingenuity that transformed these eggs into living experiences, unfolding miniature worlds that delighted, astonished, and sometimes even mystified those who peered inside. The egg's presence in the Winter Palace became a ritual of wonder. Empress Alexandra and Tsar Nicholas would examine each creation, marveling at the artistry, the hidden mechanisms, and the flawless execution of tiny details. Courtiers whispered quietly, sharing tales of how each egg had been designed to reflect personal moments, family milestones, or imperial ambitions. The eggs carried the personality of both the artisans who crafted them and the family who cherished them, blending creative genius with the quiet intimacy of a dynasty's private life, offering warmth, charm, and delight to all who experienced their brilliance. Over the years, the Romanov collection became a treasure beyond mere gold and gemstones, a reflection of an empire's refinement, the brilliance of human skill, and the fleeting beauty of fleeting time. Each egg, with its secrets and surprises, connected the workshop to the palace, the artist to the emperor, and the present moment to the unfolding narrative of imperial Russia. In these tiny masterpieces, light and shadow, color and gold, imagination and engineering converged, creating marvels that were cherished, admired, and remembered even as the world outside the palace walls grew restless, unaware that the eggs would one day face upheaval and dispersion. Shadows of Revolution. Beyond the gilded walls of the Winter Palace, winds of change began to stir. Rumors of unrest, whispered in the streets of St. Petersburg, carried hints of upheaval that would soon touch even the most opulent corners of imperial life. The Fabergé Eggs, symbols of delicate beauty and meticulous craftsmanship, now faced a world that threatened to dissolve their safety and permanence. Courtiers moved quietly, exchanging cautious glances, while palace staff began to consider subtle precautions, imagining how these tiny treasures might be shielded from an uncertain future. The eggs themselves, resting in their velvet-lined cases, seemed untouched yet watched, their golden surfaces gleaming as if aware of the tension beyond the palace walls. Preparations for safety became an intricate dance, almost as precise as the creation of the eggs themselves. Some were carefully hidden in secure rooms, others catalogued with meticulous attention, wrapped in layers of cloth and carefully transported to secret corners of the palace. Every decision required thought, balancing urgency with the delicacy of fragile mechanisms and tiny hinges. Craftsmen and courtiers alike understood that these eggs were more than gifts or decorations. They were vessels of history, artistry, and memory, and even the smallest misstep could risk their survival. Outside the palace, the streets trembled with change. As crowds gathered, demands grew louder, and unrest spread. News of revolution reached the ears of palace staff, adding layers of concern to the already delicate task of safeguarding the imperial treasures. The eggs became symbols of more than wealth. They represented a vanished world, fragile, beautiful, and under threat from forces beyond the artisans' or the imperial family's control. As couriers moved with whispers of instructions and secret plans, each egg's hidden compartments and mechanical marvels were treated with the reverence of sacred objects, their survival uncertain but their value undeniable. Within the halls of the palace, golden reflections danced across polished floors, shadows of flickering candlelight mingling with the brilliance of enamel and gemstones. Even amid worry, there was a sense of awe, a quiet recognition that these treasures carried the heart of St. Petersburg's craftsmanship and the intimate legacy of the Romanovs. The eggs, small yet profound, were silent witnesses to the changing tide, holding within them stories of devotion, artistry, and the fleeting brilliance of a world on the edge of transformation. And as the palace prepared for upheaval, the tiny masterpieces shimmered with a fragile promise, glowing quietly, waiting for the hands that could protect them, or for fate to intervene. Loss and dispersal. As the revolution swept through Russia, the serene brilliance of the Fabergé eggs faced an uncertain fate. Once nestled in velvet-lined cases within the Winter Palace, they now became vulnerable to chaos, theft, and hurried dispersal. Courtiers and palace staff worked frantically to safeguard what they could, moving eggs from familiar rooms to secret locations, sometimes under the cover of night, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Each egg was wrapped in layers of silk and cloth, but even the most careful hands could not guarantee their survival, and the tiny mechanical wonders, delicate compartments, and painted portraits were exposed to the uncertainty of a world in upheaval. Some eggs were seized, others sold, and many vanished into the corridors of history, leaving only whispered accounts of their final destinations. Stories emerged of miniature carriages and golden nests being spirited away, sometimes by loyal staff, sometimes by opportunistic collectors, and occasionally by officials who recognized the imperial value hidden within these small treasures. Each missing egg became a mystery, a riddle wrapped in enamel and gold, sparking curiosity, speculation, and fascination that would span generations. Even the surviving pieces seemed to carry the echoes of those that had disappeared, their mechanical secrets and painted interiors reminders of a collection fractured by time and turmoil. Historians and enthusiasts would later attempt to trace the scattered eggs, piecing together fragments of evidence from letters, invoices, and archival photographs. Some eggs reappeared in museums, private collections, and auction houses across Europe and beyond, their journeys often as intricate and mysterious as the miniature surprises contained within. The vanished eggs became legends, each one carrying its own story of loss, rescue, or reinvention. Tales of treasure hunters, accidental discoveries, and secret sales only deepen the aura of wonder and mystique surrounding these delicate masterpieces, making each egg not just a jewel, but a portal into a vanished world of imperial brilliance. Even as the collection fractured, the eggs retained their aura of enchantment. In quiet rooms and distant palaces, they glimmered under soft light, whispering secrets of artistry, devotion, and the fleeting opulence of the Romanovs. Their tiny compartments, hidden mechanisms, and meticulous craftsmanship remained as captivating as ever, yet each loss emphasized the fragility of beauty and the inexorable march of history. Through disappearance and dispersal, the Fabergé eggs became more than treasures. They became symbols of memory, curiosity, and the shimmering allure of what once was, leaving behind a legacy that continues to dazzle imagination long after the last emperor's voice faded from the halls of St. Petersburg. Searching for vanished jewels. Decades passed, yet the story of the missing Fabergé eggs continued to captivate collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Tales of tiny golden marvels, delicate compartments, and hidden surprises fueled imaginations, leading many on journeys across continents in search of objects that seemed almost too precious to be real. Some expeditions followed faint archival records, tracing the path of crates shipped from St. Petersburg to unknown destinations, while others relied on whispered stories of private collectors who might hold the jewels in secret. Every lead, no matter how obscure, carried the thrill of discovery and the hope of glimpsing a piece of history thought lost forever. Museums and auction houses became portals into this quest, displaying surviving eggs while drawing attention to those still unaccounted for. Scholars examined photographs, invoices, and correspondence, piecing together the movements of each masterpiece. Some eggs surfaced in unexpected locations: a Paris apartment, a London gallery, or an American collector's private vault, while others vanished again, disappearing into the shadowy margins of history. Every recovered egg told its own story, revealing craftsmanship, hidden compartments, and intricate miniatures that reminded the world of the ingenuity and artistry of Fabergé's workshop. The search often became as enthralling as the eggs themselves. Collectors and enthusiasts would travel far-flung roads, visit private estates, and dig through dusty archives, each step fueled by the desire to touch a fragment of the vanished imperial world. Rumors and legends intertwined with fact, creating a tapestry of fascination that spanned generations. Some sought to acquire, others to preserve, and many simply to witness, but all were drawn by the tiny masterpieces that had once been the intimate gifts of a dynasty, now scattered and elusive, shimmering with stories and secrets. Even today, the search continues, with each discovery reigniting wonder and curiosity. The eggs' hidden surprises, miniature portraits, and delicate mechanisms remain a testament to human skill, patience, and imagination. As historians, collectors, and dreamers trace their paths, the Fabergé eggs endure not merely as artifacts of imperial opulence, but as living legends, tiny vessels of history, artistry, and the enduring fascination of treasures lost and found. Their allure persists in quiet rooms, museums, and mines, inviting every listener to imagine the shimmer of gold, the glint of gemstones, and the intricate surprises that lie hidden, waiting to astonish anew. Shimmering memory. Even now, long after the fall of the Romanovs, the Fabergé eggs continue to glimmer in memory and imagination. Surviving masterpieces are displayed in museums, carefully lit to reveal the subtle gleam of gold, the soft glow of enamel, and the sparkle of gemstones. Visitors lean close, tracing the contours of delicate mechanisms and hidden compartments, marveling at the artistry that transforms simple materials into tiny worlds of wonder. In these moments, each egg feels almost alive, carrying whispers of palace corridors, flickering candlelight, and the quiet dedication of artisans who spent months shaping them. Replicas and restored eggs evoke the same sense of awe, offering glimpses into the vanished brilliance of a dynasty. The story of each creation, from sketches to final polish, connects past and present, allowing observers to imagine the delight of imperial recipients as they unveiled hidden treasures with gentle hands. Even in miniature, the eggs carry monumental significance, their golden shells and jeweled interiors preserving the intimate gestures, celebrations, and personal stories of a family whose empire was soon swept away by history's tides. The vanished eggs, now scattered across continents, continue to inspire curiosity and reverence. Each discovery sparks renewed fascination as collectors, historians, and dreamers uncover new clues, trace old paths, and contemplate the craftsmanship, secrecy, and ingenuity behind each jewel. In their absence, the eggs retain an aura of mystery, shimmering as legends do, whispering tales of artistry, devotion, and fleeting imperial splendor. They remind all who encounter them that beauty, even in miniature, carries the power to endure, astonish, and ignite imagination across generations. In the quiet glow of display cases or the soft light of imagination, the Fabergé eggs endure as vessels of wonder. They are tiny masterpieces of gold, enamel, and precious stones, yet also delicate carriers of history, human skill, and memory. Their intricate secrets, hidden surprises, and miniature marvels continue to dazzle, inspiring admiration, awe, and curiosity. Through each gleaming shell, the shimmering legacy of the Romanovs lives on, preserving the artistry, intimacy, and enchantment of a vanished world, inviting every listener to dream, imagine, and marvel at treasures that once belonged to emperors but now belong to imagination itself. The Amber Room, Golden Chamber of the Russian Monarchy, a tale of glowing resin, imperial halls, and a marvel carried away by shifting fronts. Resin origins along Baltic shores. Long before any palace ever claimed its splendor, amber rested quietly beneath northern forests. Golden droplets seeped from towering pine trees, glimmering like captured sunlight on moss-laden soil. Rain traced delicate paths across the bark, coaxing slow trails of resin to fall and settle, leaving faint traces of scent and warmth lingering in the woodland air. Over countless seasons, these drops hardened into translucent treasures, each holding a tiny fragment of the forest's breath, a frozen petal, a glimpse of a wing, or a drifting speck of pollen. Time deepened their glow, turning ordinary resin into pieces that seemed to carry sunsets inside their honeyed depths. Fishermen along the Baltic shores would stumble upon smoothed fragments glinting in the sand, their surfaces catching early morning light like miniature lanterns. Local artisans marveled at the amber, polishing it carefully and carving small figures, rings, or ornaments, always mindful of the delicate warmth trapped inside. Even as trade began to stretch across distant cities, people still spoke of Baltic amber with reverence, as though it contained something alive, a memory of sun and wind and forest that refused to fade. Caravans eventually threaded their way along winding roads, each crate heavy with carefully collected amber. Traders, wrapped in thick wool cloaks, moved with a soft rhythm, stepping over muddy ruts and small rivulets of water that shimmered with reflected sky. Lanterns swung gently in their hands, illuminating the smooth surfaces of the resin and casting golden sparks against the wagon walls. Each piece seemed to hum quietly with patience, as though waiting for the moment it would be shaped into something greater, something that could capture light and time all at once. Merchants whispered of the rarest fragments, those deep amber pieces that glowed almost like molten honey under the candlelight, saying they would be fit only for palaces or the most discerning collectors. Children along the roadside sometimes paused to watch the wagons pass, their eyes catching glints in the lantern light, imagining chambers built entirely of the warm golden material, glowing softly as if the sun had been trapped inside wooden walls. Even in these quiet moments, long before the amber room existed, the resin carried a sense of destiny, a secret promise that its beauty would one day be arranged into something astonishing, a chamber of warmth and light that could make the coldest palace halls shimmer as if lit from within. As the resin traveled, each fragment was carefully catalogued and wrapped in linen, stored alongside others that complemented its tone and translucence. Craftsmen studied the subtle veins and inclusions, choosing pieces that would catch light at different angles, creating a mosaic that seemed almost alive. The air smelled faintly of pine and warmth, of smoke from distant hearths, and the faint tang of sea salt from the nearby coast. Travelers told stories of amber that seemed to shift color depending on the hour of the day, glowing softly in morning fog, rich and deep under the noonday sun, and faintly luminescent as twilight draped the forests in indigo. Some even swore that if you held the pieces close at night, you could feel the slow pulse of centuries, the steady heartbeat of resin waiting to become something extraordinary. And in these northern lands, amid windswept dunes and quiet forests, the amber collected, carried, and preserved its warmth. Patient, golden, radiant even in small fragments, waiting for the day it would leave the Baltic shores and begin its journey into the world of gilded halls, mirrored light, and imperial wonder. Each crate, each polished fragment, carried the promise of something beyond ordinary artistry, a chamber yet to be born that would shimmer like sunlight trapped in walls, soft and warm and unforgettable. The humble amber of northern shores had begun a journey that would weave its way into history, into the halls of emperors, and into the imaginations of anyone who would someday marvel at golden panels glowing in distant palaces. First golden walls in Prussian hands. In bustling Prussian workshops, amber found new life beneath careful hands. Artisans worked patiently, their fingers brushing over translucent panels as lantern light danced across the warm surfaces. Each piece was selected for its color, texture, and internal glow, matched with neighboring fragments until patterns of sunlight and gold began to emerge. The scent of heated resin mingled with soft shavings of wood and the faint tang of beeswax, filling the air as delicate chisels traced graceful curves, carving motifs of leaves, blossoms, and flowing forms that seemed almost to move when caught in the flickering light. Apprentices watched attentively, learning the secret patience required to coax brilliance from something so fragile, and masters whispered guidance about angles, depth, and the quiet magic of layering panels together. Crates of amber rested carefully along stone floors, each panel inspected repeatedly to ensure its perfect translucence. Carvers arranged veins and bubbles so that sunlight passing through would create shifting mosaics of warmth and honey. Some panels caught flecks of gold leaf, carefully pressed into recesses to catch and scatter light, while tiny mirrors were embedded at precise angles to multiply the glow, reflecting both firelight and daylight across the room. The workshop smelled of polished wood, resin, and gold, and even in these quiet corners, the amber seemed alive, vibrating with the promise of grandeur yet to come. Craftsmen spoke softly of symmetry and patience, of the way light would travel across walls once the chamber was complete, and of the moment when the room would stand whole, a golden mosaic unlike anything the world had yet seen. As the panels grew under their hands, the artisans imagined the journeys that awaited them. They dreamed of courtiers and rulers stepping into a hall bathed in warm light, eyes reflecting the amber's glow. Every carved leaf, every glimmering sliver, was meant to mesmerize, to bring the forest's quiet sunlight indoors, and to transform ordinary walls into something living and magnificent. Even as winter winds swept across Prussia, the workshops glowed with warmth and focus, amber panels stacked carefully, waiting for their journey eastward. Each brushstroke of varnish, each layer of gold, carried the whispers of skill honed over decades, of secrets passed from master to apprentice, and of ambition that would soon become a palace treasure. By the time the chamber took shape, it was more than a collection of panels. It had become a miniature kingdom of light and color. The edges were gilded, the surfaces polished to perfection, and every reflection, every flicker of firelight, revealed a story frozen in amber. Craftsmen paused often, hands resting on completed sections, marveling at the way the panels seemed to glow from within, a quiet warmth that promised to outshine any ordinary wall. They wrapped each section carefully, imagining its eventual journey to distant courts where rulers would marvel at such ingenuity. And in those quiet moments, the chamber seemed almost alive, a silent witness to centuries, waiting patiently to step beyond Prussia, to be gifted, admired, and ultimately carried into the world as one of the most extraordinary treasures ever imagined. A gift fit for royal corridors. The journey from Prussia to the Russian court began quietly, yet it carried the weight of centuries of skill and ambition. Each crate of amber was carefully packed, cushioned in layers of linen and straw, ensuring that every panel remained unbroken and radiant. Carriages rolled over winding roads, past forests and rivers, and through towns where curious onlookers glimpsed the golden glimmers beneath the covers. Traders and attendants spoke softly as they walked beside the wagons, careful not to jostle the precious cargo. Lanterns swung gently at night, casting soft reflections on the amber surfaces, as if the panels themselves were breathing in the movement, sensing that their time to shine was approaching. Arriving at the Winter Palace, the crates were carried through long corridors, past tapestries, marble halls, and gilded staircases. Courtiers paused, momentarily captivated by hints of amber glow beneath the wrappings, their imaginations already picturing the chamber assembled in all its glory. Craftsmen from the palace met the Prussian artisans, exchanging soft words, gestures, and careful measurements. They discussed the fitting of panels, the alignment of mirrors, the layering of gold leaf, and the precise placement of each intricate carving. Every step was deliberate, measured, a quiet choreography of hands, light, and materials, ensuring that the amber room would emerge as a harmonious whole. As the panels were installed, the room began to transform. Light from tall windows danced across amber surfaces, reflecting off mirrors and gilded frames, creating soft pools of warmth in the marble hall. Courtiers wandered in, brushing their hands along smooth surfaces, marveling at the subtle veins, the way some panels glowed more deeply depending on the hour, the golden hues shifting like captured sunsets. Even the smallest imperfections were attended to with care, polished until they disappeared beneath the glow of skill and patience. And in those moments, the room became more than a gift. It was a living promise of beauty, a dialogue between forests and artisans, Prussia and Russia, past and present. By the time installation was complete, the amber room radiated a gentle, mesmerizing brilliance. The combination of amber, gold, and mirrored light created a warm atmosphere that seemed to hum softly, as if the room itself remembered the forests where the resin had first formed. Courtiers and guests lingered, taking in the warmth, marveling at the meticulous craftsmanship, and imagining the hands that had carved each panel with care. And though the room now belonged to Russian royalty, every reflection, every golden shimmer, still carried the echo of northern forests, of patient artisans in Prussia, and of the long, careful journey that had brought this chamber to life. Radiance within the Tsar's palace. As the amber room settled into its new home, the winter palace seemed to glow differently. Sunlight poured through tall windows, striking the amber panels and scattering golden warmth across marble floors. Mirrors multiplied the light, creating soft reflections that shimmered along gilded edges, dancing across ceilings and walls in quiet, unhurried patterns. Courtiers paused in doorways, their eyes drawn to the delicate mosaics that seemed to shift as they moved, warm honey tones giving the impression that sunlight itself had been captured and held within these crafted panels. Even servants and guards, usually preoccupied with routine, found themselves lingering, caught in the gentle magic of light and amber that filled the hall. Every inch of the room told a story of care and patience. Leaves and blossoms carved into the resin seemed to tremble in the reflected light, each tiny curve highlighted by gold leaf that traced veins and edges with meticulous precision. Mirrors framed the amber, bouncing glimmers across distant corners, and the polished surfaces appeared to glow from within, soft warmth radiating into the surrounding chambers. Courtiers spoke in hushed tones, admiring the harmony of materials, the way panels complemented one another, and the quiet brilliance that turned the room into more than mere decoration. It became a place to experience the calm radiance of craftsmanship and time itself. Life in the palace seemed to bend gently around the amber room. Celebrations, meetings, and quiet passages all carried traces of its glow. Noble figures wandered through, their footsteps softened on rich rugs, voices hushed, hands brushing lightly along warm amber surfaces. Each visit revealed something new, a hidden vein of deeper gold, a mirrored reflection that seemed to reveal an entirely different angle, a section of carvings that caught the sun in surprising ways. Even at dusk, when sunlight waned, flickering candlelight and torches brought panels to life, creating pools of warmth and shifting glimmers that seemed almost sentient, as if the room itself remembered forests, craftsmen, and the quiet journey from Prussia. The amber room became more than a chamber of opulence. It became a space where time seemed suspended. Visitors felt a strange intimacy with the past, a connection to the northern forests where the amber had first fallen, to the Prussian artisans who shaped each panel, and to the journey that carried it across roads and borders into this palace hall. Warmth and light mingled with the hushed voices of the court, and the room inspired awe without grand gestures, its presence gentle yet unforgettable. In this way, the amber room radiated a calm golden serenity that softened the harshness of marble and stone, becoming a living testimony to craftsmanship, patience, and the quiet majesty of amber itself. Approaching upheaval. The golden warmth of the amber room remained undisturbed for decades, yet beyond the palace walls, currents of change began to stir. The calm corridors and mirrored reflections stood in quiet contrast to the slow, inevitable unrest moving across the land. Courtiers sensed subtle shifts in the air, rumors of conflict brushing the edges of conversations, while palace staff exchanged knowing glances as they went about their careful routines. The amber room itself seemed untouched, its honeyed glow steady, yet even in its serene brilliance, the world beyond pressed closer, a gentle tension that no gilded panel could fully contain. Caretakers began to take subtle measures, wrapping delicate fragments in fine linens and cataloging each panel with care. They studied light and temperature, noting shifts that might affect the resin, and quietly prepared for a time when the room might need to leave its place of calm. Yet the palace remained magnificent, and for visitors, the amber room still radiated warmth and quiet wonder, every mirrored surface and gilded edge catching their gaze. Even as plans and preparations unfolded behind closed doors, the room preserved its gentle aura, soft reflections creating pockets of calm within the bustling palace. Outside, distant drums of conflict grew more insistent, shifting borders and stirring anxious whispers among those who traveled trade routes or carried news from far-off provinces. Couriers spoke of armies and movements, of towns occupied and halls emptied. Their words filtered through layers of concern before reaching the palace halls. Within these spaces, the amber room's custodians moved quietly, coordinating careful inventories, reinforcing supports, and documenting each piece of amber as if the room itself might one day vanish from the world. Every delicate panel and mirrored surface became a focus of attention, its warmth a reminder of beauty under threat, and its honey gold glow a gentle promise that something extraordinary could endure even through change. As winter approached and distant borders trembled, the amber room seemed to absorb the hush of anticipation. Golden surfaces captured soft candlelight, mirrored glints multiplied shadows of quiet movement, and even in its stillness, the room carried a subtle vigilance. Courtiers lingered longer than usual, tracing fingers lightly along polished edges, unaware of the preparations in motion, yet sensing a change that hovered beneath the calm. And in these quiet moments, the chamber stood as a steadfast witness to centuries of craftsmanship and care, a glowing heart within a palace anticipating upheaval, a silent reminder that even the most radiant marvels could be swept along by the currents of history. Disappearance amid wartime movement. The amber room, once a calm sanctuary of golden warmth, found itself on the cusp of an uncertain journey. Crates of amber were carefully dismantled, each panel wrapped in layers of linen, and every gilded edge protected from the slightest jostle. Couriers and soldiers moved quietly through palace corridors, their footsteps softened by rugs and careful attention, carrying each piece toward waiting wagons and rail cars. Lanterns swung gently overhead, illuminating polished amber and gilded carvings, casting fleeting sparks across the floor. Every motion was deliberate, precise, and urgent, yet despite the careful handling, the air carried a subtle tension, the sense that a treasure of unparalleled beauty was slipping from its familiar world into the unknown. Rail cars rumbled through misty landscapes as the amber room traveled away from its home. The golden panels lay cushioned in straw and linen, absorbing the motion and vibration with patient resilience. Soldiers and attendants spoke in hushed tones, mapping routes, noting bridges and rivers, and guiding wagons through forests and along cobbled roads. Even at night, as the carriages rolled beneath the faint glow of stars and lanterns, the amber seemed to shimmer softly, as if aware of the journey it had embarked upon. Every glint reflected in the mirrors, and gold hinted at the path ahead, capturing both the calm of craftsmanship and the quiet anxiety of displacement. The route carried the chamber into occupied territories, through towns emptied by conflict and along roads scarred by passing armies. Local villagers glimpsed hints of golden glow through wagon slats, wondering at the precious cargo, while soldiers kept careful watch. Along the way, each panel was checked repeatedly, maps consulted, and notes taken about every piece. Even as the amber room traveled into uncertainty, it retained its quiet brilliance, its mosaics catching fleeting light and hinting at the artistry and care that had shaped it decades before. It seemed, for a brief time, to hold both its past and its journey within each warm panel. By the time the convoy reached Königsberg Castle, the chamber had been seen by few, yet its presence remained palpable. Crates were unloaded into storerooms, carefully stacked and labeled, the amber still glowing faintly in the filtered light of distant windows. The room, though dismantled, retained the memory of its grandeur, each panel echoing craftsmanship, patience, and centuries of careful hands. And as it settled into its temporary home, it entered a chapter of mystery, a quiet pause in its life before the decades of disappearance would begin. The golden warmth persisted, hidden from view yet alive, awaiting a moment when it would either resurface or drift further into history's elusive corridors. Searches, rumors, and remnants left behind. Long after the last crate of amber settled in Königsberg Castle, the golden chamber seemed to vanish from the world. Historians, adventurers, and treasure hunters whispered its name with awe, tracing old maps and forgotten roads in hopes of glimpsing even a fragment of its warmth. Rumors drifted like soft fog, stories of hidden bunkers, sunken ships, and abandoned tunnels carrying the panels into shadowed corners of memory. Each tale, whether promising or improbable, carried a quiet thrill, a gentle pulse of anticipation, as if the room itself had left behind a faint trace for those with patience enough to follow. Investigators and archivists pieced together fragments of correspondence, shipping records, and eyewitness accounts. Rail timetables and military orders hinted at the amber room's path, but each clue dissolved into uncertainty. Explorers ventured into forests and along rivers, descending into damp cellars and abandoned buildings, tracing the faintest glimmer of amber or the hint of gilded edges. Some swore they glimpsed a reflection in the darkness, others found nothing but dust and silence, yet the stories endured, carried in quiet fascination from generation to generation. Over decades, the golden chamber became more than a treasure lost. It became a symbol of wonder and curiosity. Museums displayed replicas, books told its story, and scholars debated every possible fate, yet the original remained elusive. Even as evidence grew scarce, the amber seemed to persist in imagination, glowing softly in descriptions, sketches, and memories. Collectors and historians alike felt the gentle pull of its mystery, as though the room had left behind not just panels of gold and resin, but a whisper of northern forests, workshops, and quiet lantern-lit journeys. The search for the Amber Room continues even today, carried on by those drawn to beauty and history. Modern expeditions, archival digs, and careful study attempt to retrace the path of panels that disappeared into wartime movement. Every find, every lead, whether small or promising, is a moment of quiet connection to the room's life, a hint that the warmth of amber may yet reveal itself. And even if the original remains unseen, the stories of its glow, craftsmanship, and journey linger, shimmering softly in the imagination of those who wonder, as if the golden chamber still waits patiently, hidden but alive, somewhere just beyond reach. Quiet afterglow of a golden enigma. Decades have passed since the last confirmed glimpse of the Amber Room, yet its warmth continues to linger in memory. The reconstructed chamber in St. Petersburg glows softly for visitors, golden light dancing across mirrored surfaces, hinting at the brilliance of the original. Panels of amber catch every flicker of sunlight and candle flame, casting gentle reflections that seem to stretch across time itself. As observers trace the intricate mosaics, they feel an echo of distant forests, patient artisans, and the long journey from Prussia to Russian halls, as though the chamber carries its own quiet heartbeat. Even in replicas, the Amber Room's essence evokes wonder. Scholars speak of its history, tracing paths of crates, railways, and hidden storerooms, yet every account is tinged with mystery. Artists and craftsmen continue to marvel at the delicate carvings, the glimmer of gold, and the subtle shifts of amber hues that seem almost alive. Visitors pause to breathe in the gentle warmth, to imagine courtly footsteps along polished floors, to picture lanterns flickering and soft sunlight passing through translucent panels. And in these moments, the chamber becomes more than a room. It becomes a story, a living memory suspended between what was, what remains, and what may never be found. The golden chamber, though lost, leaves traces in imagination and artistry. Each retelling, each search, each replica is a thread that ties past to present, light to shadow, forest to palace. Children reading books, travelers walking palace halls, and historians poring over archival sketches all feel the faint pulse of amber warmth. In this way, the Amber Room's journey continues quietly, drifting beyond maps, beyond walls, beyond the certainty of history, a marvel preserved in patience, memory, and longing. Its glow, though elusive, lingers in minds and hearts, soft as the northern light that first kissed the resin. And so, the golden chamber rests not in a single place, but everywhere it is remembered. Its panels, its mirrors, Its gilded edges live in imagination, in whispered tales, in careful recreations. Though its original brilliance vanished along war-torn roads, the amber room endures in quiet reflection, a gentle radiance that warms even the coldest corners of thought. It is a marvel of human skill and nature's beauty intertwined, a room that carries sunlight, craftsmanship, and history together, reminding all who hear its story that some wonders, though hidden, remain luminous in memory and dream. The Peacock Throne, glittering centerpiece of the Mughal Empire, an account of shimmering opulence, royal ambition, and a throne that disappeared from the world. Crown jewel of imperial ambition. In the golden light of dawn, Delhi's royal workshops came alive, walls glowing with the warmth of molten gold, and the air vibrating with a quiet hum of anticipation. Each artisan moved with purpose, carrying delicate tools, chisels, and trays of sparkling gems, as if they were tending to a living creation. This was the birth of an empire in form and artistry, a throne that would speak of power, majesty, and divine favor. Shah Jahan envisioned it as more than a seat. It would be a symbol, gleaming with precious gemstones and intricate carvings, a masterpiece that would dazzle the eyes of kings and emissaries alike. Gold was hammered and molded with the precision of a jeweler's heartbeat, while emeralds, rubies, and diamonds shimmered in trays like captured fragments of sunlight. Artisans bent over the work, their hands guided by both tradition and the emperor's exacting vision. Each peacock motif was meticulously inlaid, feathers tipped with gems that caught the light in 1,000 sparkling reflections. Carvings of celestial constellations and flowing floral patterns wound across the throne's surface, turning every angle into a story of imperial grandeur. The air smelled faintly of molten metal and incense, a scent that seemed to imbue the throne itself with a sacred aura. Shah Jahan wandered among the workshop, his presence both a reassurance and a spark of inspiration. Courtiers whispered in awe as the emperor examined the work, tracing the patterns with a careful eye, envisioning how the throne would command the court. He imagined ambassadors stepping into the hall, eyes wide with wonder, hearts quietly measuring the reach of Mughal power. Every detail, from the subtle curve of a peacock's feather to the perfectly cut diamond inlay, was a deliberate act of storytelling, a visual poem of authority, artistry, and ambition. As the weeks turned into months, the throne's brilliance became legend even before it reached the palace. It gleamed like a miniature sun, peacocks standing guard at its corners, wings unfurled and jeweled plumage shimmering in light. The throne promised more than wealth. It radiated the dreams, discipline, and aspirations of an empire at its zenith. In this moment, before it would be placed in the grand halls of Delhi, the Peacock Throne existed as a testament to human skill, artistic devotion, and the luminous ambition of a ruler determined to leave an indelible mark on history. And though centuries later it would vanish into mystery, in this first gleaming morning, it shone with the full splendor of creation, destined to inspire awe and longing for generations to come. Crafting splendor. The workshop buzzed with an intensity that made the air feel alive, a symphony of hammers, chisels, and the soft scrape of tools against gold. Sunlight streamed through high windows, catching the shimmer of gold dust and sparkling gemstones, turning the room into a universe of miniature stars. Each artisan had a task, a piece of the throne to shape, carve, or embellish, yet all were guided by a single vision, the creation of a masterpiece unlike any the world had ever seen. Gold sheets were stretched and molded over wooden frameworks, delicate enough to cradle precious jewels but strong enough to hold the weight of an emperor's presence. Every movement felt sacred, every placement of stone deliberate, as if the throne itself was alive beneath their hands. Emeralds, rubies, sapphires, and diamonds were arranged with painstaking care, each chosen for its color, clarity, and ability to catch the light in a dazzling array of reflections. Goldsmiths bent over the inlays, their eyes narrowing as they carved intricate patterns, the edges of each feather and petal traced with microscopic precision. The peacock motifs, iconic and majestic, were given particular reverence. Emeralds glittered as if dew had fallen upon each feather, rubies blushed like the heart of the bird itself, and tiny diamonds sparkled like sunlight on water. Behind the brilliance lay hours of measurement, calculation, and meticulous design, ensuring that every surface of the throne would harmonize with the next in perfect symmetry. Woodworkers shaped the throne's underlying structure, their planes and chisels gliding over timber like a painter's brush on canvas. They created compartments and recesses to hold hidden treasures, secret drawers and niches that would surprise any dignitary who approached the throne. The air smelled faintly of sawdust and molten metal, mingling with the faint perfume of ink and resin used to seal delicate inlays. Apprentices watched wide-eyed, learning the rhythm of craftsmanship, while master artisans oversaw every detail, correcting, guiding, and perfecting each element. It was a ballet of skill, discipline, and devotion, each movement choreographed to bring the emperor's vision to life. As weeks stretched into months, the throne began to emerge in full brilliance. Every inch shimmered with the reflections of countless jewels. Every carving told a story of imperial ambition, artistry, and celestial order. Candles flickered against the gold surfaces in the evening, and the throne seemed to glow from within, a beacon of power and beauty. In this moment, it was more than a throne. It was the heart of an empire made tangible, a symbol that would command awe in courts and hearts alike. And though it would one day vanish into history, in the hands of these artisans it shone with perfect, crafted glory, a testament to the collaboration of vision, skill, and unwavering devotion to artistry. The Peacock Majesty. The first glimpse of the Peacock Throne in its completed form was a vision that seemed to belong more to a dream than reality. Jewels gleamed like captured sunlight, emeralds flickering with green fire, rubies glowing like embers, and diamonds scattering light in 1,000 directions. The throne's iconic peacocks perched along its edges, their wings unfurled in frozen motion, each feather painstakingly tipped with gold and gemstones. Light danced across the intricacies, playing upon curves and carvings, casting shimmering patterns on the polished floors of the workshop. Those who stepped close felt a magnetic pull, as if the throne itself held the power to enchant, to captivate, to command both eyes and hearts. Peacocks were more than decorative. They were symbols steeped in Mughal meaning, representing immortality, beauty, and vigilance. These jeweled birds became the throne's living soul, guardians of imperial majesty. Each feather held a story, each gemstone a silent ode to craftsmanship and symbolism intertwined. Courtiers whispered that the throne was alive in spirit, that the peacocks, though frozen in gold and jewels, seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The throne's artistry spoke not only of wealth but of the values and dreams of a civilization that measured power through both beauty and intellect. Beyond the peacocks, every panel and carving contributed to a narrative of imperial vision. Celestial motifs intertwined with floral arabesques, creating a sense of the heavens resting gently upon the earth. Tiny hidden drawers held secret treasures, reflecting the emperor's desire to impress, to surprise, and to command reverence. Light, color, and reflection were orchestrated with precision, turning every glance into a story, every shadow into a gentle whisper of grandeur. Standing before the throne, one could almost feel the pulse of the Mughal court, the weight of ambition, and the splendor of a world meticulously curated. Even as artisans and courtiers admired the throne, Shah Jahan envisioned it within the halls of Delhi, surrounded by ambassadors, nobles, and emissaries from far-flung lands. The throne would dominate ceremonies, capturing attention and shaping perception, a dazzling centerpiece of authority and artistry. It was a masterpiece of wealth, skill, and imagination, but also a mirror of the emperor himself, reflecting ambition, pride, and the careful orchestration of power. And though centuries would scatter it into mystery, in this moment, the peacock majesty reigned fully, radiant, awe-inspiring, and alive in its glittering perfection. Seat of power. The Peacock Throne, now complete, found its place in the grand halls of Delhi, a gleaming sun at the center of imperial life. The air of the court vibrated with expectation and ceremony as Shah Jahan sat upon it, the jewels catching the morning light and scattering it across marble floors. Courtiers, diplomats, and emissaries from distant lands approached with measured steps, their eyes drawn irresistibly to the throne's radiant presence. Every angle revealed new marvels, intricate peacock feathers, tiny gemstones embedded in floral patterns, and celestial motifs that seemed to shimmer and shift as one moved through the hall. It was more than a seat, it was the axis of power, a visual symphony commanding attention, respect, and awe. Every ceremony around the throne became a careful dance of authority. Ministers knelt, envoys bowed, and ambassadors whispered in awe as Shah Jahan presided over the empire's affairs with an elegance amplified by his surroundings. The throne reflected not only the emperor's wealth, but also his intellect, taste, and the meticulous organization of courtly life. Light, movement, and sound all played a role in shaping perception. The shimmer of gemstones against flowing robes, the gentle rustle of silk on marble, and the faint glint of gold in candlelight worked together to create an atmosphere that was simultaneously celebratory, sacred, and commanding. The Peacock Throne was also a center of spectacle. Festivals, receptions, and grand audiences became immersive experiences, with the throne at the heart of every scene. Visitors spoke of feeling small before its grandeur, of how the combination of light, color, and delicate craftsmanship could make even the most powerful dignitaries pause in wonder. Every gesture from the emperor, every decree, was magnified by the throne's brilliance, turning ordinary actions into displays of subtle majesty and authority. It was as if the throne itself participated in the governance of the empire, a silent yet commanding partner in ruling. Yet behind the glamour lay an unspoken truth. The throne was a fragile jewel of political power. Its brilliance was matched by the attention it drew from those who coveted it, and its prominence made it a prize in the eyes of rivals. For now, it gleamed at the center of the Mughal court, radiating confidence and authority, but the story of its glory would eventually encounter the tides of conquest, ambition, and fate. In these early years, however, the Peacock Throne stood resplendent, the embodiment of Shah Jahan's vision, artistry, and the intoxicating luminous pulse of empire itself. Looming threats over Delhi. Even as the Peacock Throne gleamed at the heart of the Mughal court, whispers of unease began to drift through the marble halls. Tales of foreign armies moving across distant lands reached the ears of courtiers and ministers, and rumors of ambition and conquest filled the air like a gathering storm. The throne, a dazzling symbol of imperial might, became a fragile beacon, drawing not only admiration but also envy, desire, and danger. Courtiers exchanged cautious glances as messengers brought news of shifting alliances and rising threats, their words punctuated by the soft clinking of gold jewelry and the distant cries of the city's markets. Every gleam of the throne's gemstones seemed to reflect an unspoken question: could such brilliance endure in a world increasingly hungry for power? Shah Jahan's advisors debated strategies and fortified defenses, yet even their meticulous planning could not erase the tension. Delhi was a city alive with the pulse of trade, diplomacy, and politics, yet every celebration around the throne now carried an undercurrent of uncertainty. The emperor walked through the palace, observing the throng of nobles and envoys, aware that each glance toward the throne carried both respect and the shadow of ambition. The Peacock Throne, with its jeweled peacocks and shimmering panels, became a silent witness to the anxiety that rippled through the court, a symbol of what might be lost if the empire faltered. Beyond the palace walls, distant armies and restless rivals moved with deliberate precision. Persian forces under Nadir Shah advanced through strategic territories, their banners snapping in the wind like ominous heralds. Spies and scouts reported movements of soldiers, shipments of weapons, and the quiet organization of forces that could one day bring devastation to the city. Delhi's streets hummed with life, yet beneath the surface, a current of fear ran through the people, aware that the throne, for all its beauty, was now a magnet for conquest and desire. Even the courtiers who reveled in its brilliance could not deny the tension, for in a world ruled by ambition and war, such magnificence was never safe. As the weeks passed, anticipation transformed into apprehension. Every festival, every public ceremony, carried a heightened awareness of potential danger, and the Peacock Throne seemed to shine more brightly against the growing uncertainty. Its golden surface reflected not only sunlight and candlelight, but also the anxiety of a court preparing, even unknowingly, for the arrival of fate. The throne stood as a reminder of both the empire's grandeur and its vulnerability, a silent harbinger of the approaching storm. And though it still radiated awe and majesty, the seeds of loss and the whispers of conquest had begun to take root, marking the beginning of a chapter in which even the brightest splendor could not shield itself from history's relentless tide. Seized in glory. The day Nadir Shah's forces arrived in Delhi, the city's golden light seemed tinged with unease, as if the sun itself anticipated the coming storm. Soldiers poured through the streets, banners snapping in the wind, and the clatter of armor echoed against marble walls. Inside the palace, courtiers and guards scrambled, but the Peacock Throne remained at the center of it all, untouched yet impossible to protect. Its gilded surfaces glimmered in the sun, jeweled peacocks frozen in majestic vigilance, unaware that the greatest threat it had ever known was drawing near. Shah Jahan watched, his heart heavy with the knowledge that centuries of craftsmanship and imperial pride might vanish in a single unstoppable tide. The Persian conquerors swept through the grand halls with precision and purpose, their eyes drawn instantly to the throne, the jewel of the Mughal court. Soldiers marveled at its beauty even as they prepared to dismantle it, each emerald and ruby catching the light as if to protest its seizure. Courtiers could only look on, torn between fear and awe, as the throne was lifted, each movement precise, careful, yet unstoppable. The emperor's vision, the labor of countless artisans, and the grandeur of an empire distilled into gold and gemstone, was being transported into the unknown, leaving behind only echoes of brilliance in the palace it had once illuminated. The journey of the throne out of Delhi was a spectacle of both terror and wonder. Caravans of soldiers carefully bore its weight through streets crowded with fearful onlookers, the glimmering object moving like a golden star across a landscape filled with tension and curiosity. Jewels sparkled in sunlight and shadow, catching the gaze of those who dared to follow at a distance, while rumors and stories began to spread about the treasure's fate. The throne's magnificence remained, but now it carried the weight of conquest, the drama of theft, and the unspoken fear of disappearance that would haunt generations. By the time the throne vanished from view, carried off into Persia, it had become a legend in motion. Delhi was left with empty halls, courtiers whispering of splendor lost and an empire's vulnerability exposed. The Peacock Throne, in all its gilded glory, was no longer just a seat of power. It was a symbol of ambition, conquest, and the fragility of even the most dazzling creations. Its beauty endured in memory and imagination, a silent reminder that history could lift brilliance into mystery as easily as it could crown an emperor. And as the sun set over Delhi's quietened streets, the throne's shimmer lingered in the mind, a testament to artistry, grandeur, and the impermanence of all earthly glory. Legends and traces of the throne. Once the Peacock Throne vanished from Delhi, its presence lingered like a whisper through history, carried in the minds of those who had glimpsed its brilliance and the rumors that spread far beyond the empire's borders. Stories grew with each retelling. Some said it had been melted down, its gold scattered among Persian treasures, while others insisted it had been hidden in secret vaults, awaiting rediscovery by a future generation. Travelers, historians, and collectors became seekers of a dream, tracing fragments of the throne through letters, sketches, and accounts, piecing together a tale of splendor that defied disappearance. Even distant lands felt the pull of its legend, as emissaries and scholars debated its fate over the clinking of cups and the rustle of parchments. Legends wove themselves into reality, each retelling more vivid than the last. Some claim that Nadir Shah had admired the throne so intensely that he refused to dismantle it entirely, transporting it in one magnificent, glittering piece. Others whispered that parts of it had been melted into coins, jewels recut into crowns, or repurposed into other objects of imperial display, yet the throne's aura could never be diminished. Across continents and centuries, the Peacock Throne became both tangible and mythical, an object of fascination, a symbol of lost greatness, and a mirror reflecting the desires and ambitions of every eye that had ever beheld it. Historians tried to track its trail, sketching maps, studying letters, and consulting old accounts from Persian and Mughal sources. Travelers' diaries recounted glimpses of treasures in faraway courts, descriptions of gilded peacocks and gemstone-studded panels that seemed to echo the throne's presence. Artifacts resembling pieces of its glory were identified, debated, and catalogued, yet certainty remained elusive. The throne, in its disappearance, had become a puzzle for the ages, an enigma that inspired obsession and awe alike. Every story told, every clue discovered, added layers to the Peacock Throne's enduring mystique, ensuring that even in absence it never truly faded from memory. Through centuries, the legend of the throne seeped into art, literature, and imagination. Writers conjured images of its peacocks glimmering under candlelight. Poets described the shimmer of jewels that seemed to capture the sun itself, and historians pondered its fate in reverent tones. The Peacock Throne became more than an object. It became a symbol of human ambition, the brilliance of artistry, and the fragility of worldly treasures. Though its golden frame and jeweled feathers were lost to time, the echoes of its majesty continue to inspire wonder, a testament to the allure of beauty and the stories that outlive even the most dazzling creations. Fading brilliance remembered. Long after the Peacock Throne disappeared from sight, its image lingered in the minds of those who had glimpsed it, and in the imagination of generations who had only heard whispers of its brilliance. Artists and chroniclers attempted to capture its glory, sketching peacocks with jeweled feathers, golden panels adorned with intricate floral patterns, and surfaces that seemed to glow from within. The throne became a touchstone of opulence, a benchmark against which the beauty of other courts and treasures was measured, a reminder that human skill could summon awe in the shape of gold, gemstone, and vision. Even in absence, it radiated authority, a quiet pulse of majesty echoing through halls, manuscripts, and stories. The throne's influence spread far beyond the Mughal Empire, inspiring artisans and rulers in distant lands who sought to emulate its artistry and grandeur. Palaces shimmered with gilded furniture and jeweled motifs. Miniature peacocks appeared in carvings and paintings, and jeweled thrones elsewhere bore silent testimony to the Peacock Throne's enduring inspiration. Every design, every echo of its beauty, was a tribute to the imagination and skill of the artisans who had once labored under Shah Jahan's watchful eye. Its disappearance did not diminish its power, it only transformed it into legend, a golden standard for what could be achieved when ambition, creativity, and devotion converged. Yet in the quiet of memory, the throne carried a gentle melancholy. The marble halls of Delhi that had once reflected its brilliance were empty of its physical presence, the courtiers who had marveled at its majesty long gone, and yet in imagination, the throne still shimmered. Candlelight and sunlight danced across its imagined surfaces, and the jeweled peacocks seemed to preen in eternal vigilance, guarding a glory that no one could now touch but everyone could envision. The story of the throne became a story of impermanence, a reminder that even the most dazzling creations could vanish into time, leaving only echoes, sketches, and memories to tell their tale. And so the Peacock Throne endures, not in gold or gem, but in the human imagination, in the dreams of those who long to witness its splendor, and in the pages of history that attempt to preserve its radiance. It continues to inspire awe, to ignite curiosity, and to remind us of the power of artistry and ambition. Though lost to the world, its shimmer persists, a quiet brilliance that travels through centuries, illuminating the minds of those who dare to dream of beauty, craft, and a vision so grand that even time cannot erase it. In memory, it sits still, jeweled, majestic, and magnificent, a silent testament to the heights of human imagination and the fleeting, radiant glory of empire.